Welcome to the What I Meant to Say podcast. I'm your host, Wendy Jones, and I started these conversations because life doesn't give us do-overs. So this is a space where we get a chance to reflect and tell our story again, with more grace for ourselves, and hopefully make us all better for having listened. This week's conversation with Matt Prosser got to the heart of what sports can inspire in us when we are faced with the battle that is bigger than the court. Matt is a dad and cancer survivor with a Hall of Fame-worthy volleyball career at Long Beach State, who played professionally indoor and then came back to play and win on the AVP. While I love to talk volleyball, there is nothing better than a comeback story and getting a deeper understanding of what we learn through sports that bridges the highs and lows of life. Matt has insight on the importance of self-reflection, taking care of your health, setting athletic goals at any age, and how much relationships matter as we move through life. Don't miss this awesome game of life conversation. Well, I've been looking forward to this conversation for What I Meant to Say. And, okay, give me a deep breath here. But we've connected through volleyball, and I love the game of volleyball, but I always love the story behind the game, even more than the game.
Sure.
So
there's a lot of them, too.
There are a lot of them, and I'm enjoying collecting them. So the way this all came down is a mutual friend of ours, Tony Rodriguez, pointed you out when we were at the Long Beach State game, and I tend to get like an energy about something, and I was like, wait a second, there's a story there. And then Jason pointed out that you had played with Eric, and Jason had introduced me to Eric when we had one of these conversations early on. Mm-hmm. And so I was really grateful that you were happy to sit down and do this today.
And,
exactly.
It's all a network, and I'm happy to be here, excited to be a part of it. So.
Cool. Yeah. Well, what interested me the most was the comeback story, because I am just a sucker for, the ups and downs of life and the things that we learn and how we can turn those things into being better people. Yeah. And I know you've got a cancer survivor story that kind of blended into a really cool volleyball comeback story. So maybe we start there. Sure. Tell me about that point in your life.
Well, it's it's something that I don't think anyone has ever prepared to hear, right? That you have cancer of any kind, especially as a former professional athlete. It's very, it's like it's earth shattering, right? And so, we can start from the beginning. My volleyball playing days were sort of over. Had a good career, but made a final in Hermosa Beach in 2010, and the following weekend the AVP went bankrupt. With that ownership group, and so that was a bit of a shock that went through the volleyball community for everybody, not just me, but I had fully invested in it, and so going back and starting in 2010 from that point gets us to where I was in 2015. I had taken a job with a Stryker Corporation, which is a medical device company. It's a real big global company. And the job was in Arizona, in Phoenix. And so for the first time, me and my family were going to move away from the beach, which was a little scary in itself, to the desert, which was a very big change.
Big shock.
And, so we moved there in 2015, and I was working, and my second son was born in Phoenix, Wells, back in 2016. And in 2017 was, just kind of doing life, and had two little kids and a house and, a pool in the backyard and a job, and it was 120 degrees outside.
Yep, I felt it. Yeah.
But to get back to the cancer story, my family and I had decided that we were done having kids, so I went to a urologist to discuss those options. And during the physical exam of that, something kind of came across to the doctor that needed to get looked into a little bit more. And so at first, that was the first kind of like shockwave, like, whoa, doc, like I'm here for, this, and now you're telling me I possibly have testicular cancer. So that was very scary, obviously. And for me, coming, I used to hate needles.
Okay.
I used to never go to the doctor. And being a professional athlete, you are constantly worried about your body, your muscles, your knees, your shoulders, making sure that everything's working properly, your spine, chiropractic, all those things. But whenever it came to like real healthcare, that was never something that I was like really self-invested in.
Well,
right?
You probably kind of have that idea in your mind, like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to, like, I do everything right, I take care of myself, and for a long time, we tend to get away with that.
Totally. And to me at the time, I was very shocked because I didn't feel like I had any symptoms other than, I had stopped really playing volleyball, wasn't being very physically active, so I put a couple, pounds on, and I was working, so maybe my attitude and general, view of life was more turning into this kind of like, well, I have a job and a family, and I'm, not doing the things really that I need to do for myself. And maybe in retrospect, those were some symptoms that I just didn't know about at the time. But after a couple more tests, ultrasound and CT scan, I ended up being diagnosed with stage 2B testicular cancer in March of 2017. And so,
you're coming home to a family and 2 little kids.
Right.
And
2 little kids, a wife, a family, responsibilities, commitments, things like that, jobs. So, again, a very kind of earth shaking, right? A very big shockwave to have to be told, because again, never felt unhealthy.
Did they give you a course of treatment, or did you have to do like a lot of research to decide what you were going to do?
Me and my family did do a lot of research. We got multiple opinions in terms of the treatment protocol, right? So once I got diagnosed, we looked at some options in Arizona and also here in California at USC, UCLA, and then some private care. Fortunately, through my career at the time with medical device sales, I knew a lot of doctors that gave me some referrals. But then a childhood friend of mine is actually an oncologist for UCLA up in Ventura, which is where I grew up.
Okay.
And he put me in touch with one of his colleagues in Santa Monica. And we hit it off really well, great rapport. The protocol for treatment was a 9-week, 3-cycle chemotherapy protocol. And at the time, based on that protocol, the data from everyone else, because they have just huge data systems of results of people that are diagnosed with varying stages of testicular cancer, what your prognosis was going to be at the end of that treatment. And so the data showed that there was more than a 95% chance of curability.
And that's what you want to hear.
In 5 years, you'll be completely clean, right?
Okay.
And clean in terms of, cancer cells, growth, lymph node growth, things like that. It's one thing that I didn't know about testicular cancer is that it's the most common type of cancer in white males between the ages of 18 and 34.
Wow.
Which is a very big eye-opening thing. And I got diagnosed at 38, which was one of the first things that all the doctors said to me. They were like, wait a minute, you're 38, like you're too old for this and you have no symptoms, right? And I was just like, everything seems to be working fine, doc. Like, I went to a urologist because we were done having kids. And now I'm, staring at doing chemotherapy, which is pretty scary, right?
Yeah.
And so...
Man, life can change on a dime.
Life can change on a dime. So we put our house on the market in Phoenix, and we came back to Hermosa Beach, and I did my chemotherapy in Santa Monica in a building that I still go to for either for work or for my doctor's appointments.
Yeah.
So that's, it's taken me a long time. We're going on 5 years. It was just 5 years of my very first, clear scan back in, it'll be 5 years, It'll be 5 years next month, May.
Okay.
And so I have one more CT scan to do, I think in June, and then I expect that to be clear, and it kind of, we'll sort of close the chapter on that one,
Yeah. So take me from 9 weeks of chemo to start getting back into volleyball.
So 9 weeks of chemo, besides being told you have cancer, to me the scariest thing about it was the word chemotherapy.
Yeah.
Because at the time, from my knowledge of chemotherapy, it meant that I was going to, lose my hair. I was going to be bedridden. I was going to have zero energy. I was going to be constantly ill with flu-like symptoms, throwing up. And I have a big phobia of throwing up. I hate doing it. So I try not to do it as much as possible. And just sort of basically what looked like hell. And when we spoke about this previously, it was my comparison was to Lance Armstrong, right?
Yeah.
Through his cancer story of testicular cancer and brain cancer and lung cancer, and reading his books, because I'm a cycling fan, and growing up in that time frame, you know, the whole Tour de France story with Lance Armstrong, and seeing how devastating it was for him, but then motivationally to see how he rebounded.
Right.
Of course, that's retrospectively and everything else about his, you know, performance enhancing drugs and whatnot, but
didn't know that at the time.
So chemotherapy was very scary. I was put on a 9-week protocol, which was 3 cycles and each cycle consisted of 3 weeks, and it was all liquid. It was all intravenous infusion chemotherapy.
You had a port.
So I had to go have a procedure done where they put this port in my chest underneath my skin, so they could access the port, and then that port had a hose that went straight into like a vein in my neck, so that it could get infused faster and then, you know, do its job quicker. So first of all, I had already had surgery in Arizona to remove a cancerous object. Then I had to have another procedure to put this port in my chest, which was this big thing about the size of the end of your thumb, right? Your thumbnail.
Yeah.
And height-wise also. And they cut and they insert it right under your skin, so that when you go in for your infusion, they just pop a needle through like a layer of tissue, and they put it in. It's basically like a reservoir, and it kind of pumps the infusion drugs straight to your bloodstream and then spreads out, right? So there's 2 procedures for that. And then chemotherapy for the first week of that 3-week cycle was 7 hours a day, Monday through Friday.
Wow.
In like a lazy boy
you're just
chair.
sitting.
I'm just sitting. I'm watching movies. I'm journaling. I was reading. And you're just kind of sitting there. You get up to go walk to the bathroom, and you know, you come back and you just sit there, and family's there for me, and then there's other people around, and you know, it's not like private, or you see other people going through it. I made contacts that I still see. Another friend of mine who was going through the same thing, and we met up there, and our kids know each other, and you know, so there's that. And so that was the first week, 7 hours a day of infusion, and usually around day 4 is when it really started to hit me that I don't feel good from this stuff, because it's a bunch of chemicals. I mean, it's radioactive chemicals. I mean, it's toxic stuff in order to take care of the cancer cells. Now, I mean, we did research some other, you know, holistic approaches and things like that. But when we heard about the data that was just so supportive of the protocol, it was a no-brainer. Me and my whole family were like, "You got to do it this way. Like, why would you not do it that way?"
Right. I mean, you're going to go with what the best survival rates and clean
and Western medicine. You know, it's science-based. Like, you know,
well, and not like
works.
you can't still do some of the holistic stuff on the side, right?
Right.
Like, you're still going to take care of yourself and eat your vegetables and do.
So, I mean, aside from chemo, which I did, you know, I went raw vegan for a little bit.
Okay.
And that was a really, like, a good step. I'm happy I did it. It was challenging. It didn't always taste that good, but it was, you know, it was a project, right?
Yeah.
Very intense. Raw vegan is tough, but
you know why I'm laughing.
I know.
Right,
well, this guy's been on the carnivore diet, so you guys are like on the opposite.
I didn't say I'm still on it.
Yeah.
All right.
But,
so raw vegan, and you know, and then you know, you obviously sugar, like cancer cells. That's their fuel is sugar, white sugar, refined sugar, high fructose corn syrup, soda. Have
you ever read Grain Brain?
No, I have not.
That book like turned me on to the like get off this stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, they are addicting. You know, America's addicted to sugar, and when you see what it really does, cellularly, it's
really bad.
Yeah.
And so I'm not a soda drinker, other than very rarely.
Yeah, me either. My kids like will torture. See,
I
have
water,
teenagers. And I don't buy it in my house, but my kid, like, they'll bring it in.
Yeah.
And you know, they're teenagers. I always figure that if I completely shut them down, they're gonna bounce back. So they like torture me with it. And
at least they have the little cans now.
Yeah, I know.
Guess if that's you know,
totally
a consolation.
But I'm like not touching that stuff.
Yeah. So in the chemotherapy protocol, I would start to feel pretty sick on like day 4 and 5. So it was a delayed reaction, right?
Yeah.
The first few days I felt fine. I would actually go work out. I would go to the gym. I would do, sled pushes. And I was just like, okay, well, like I can do this, and I played volleyball during chemotherapy with friends, and I felt pretty good. I had to take it easy, and chemotherapy made you a little more sensitive to the sun. Obviously energy levels were a little bit lower, but I would, go out to Hermosa and play volleyball and be on chemotherapy. And I'm just like, this is not like, it's not what I thought, but it's also not how it's supposed to be. And so I'm very grateful that I responded the way that I did to chemotherapy, because I know there's unfortunately way too many people in the world that didn't or can't respond. Yeah, I had that experience to chemotherapy that I had. And so I've always had to be cognizant of that and be very grateful for it. And so that was the 3-week cycle. Was the first week was 5 days of infusion, and then the next Monday, and then the following Monday. So you got a lot of it all at once, and then you let it do its job, and then you had to go back. So cycle 2, the first week, it was 5 days in a row. The thing is that when I broke it down on a calendar, it was 9 total weeks, right? But it was really only 21 days, and then it was really only 28 days of actual infusion and sitting in a chair hooked up to a machine that was pumping all these chemicals into my body, and then that was going to be it. So I looked at it very microscopically, that, okay, it's like day 1, check the box, got it done, and I compared it to sports, and this was the path that I needed to do to get better for cancer, and chemotherapy was the vehicle, right? For volleyball, when I was playing volleyball, if I wanted to be a better blocker, I'm going to go to the beach, I'm going to work my ass off and do the little things to get better at blocking, right? Or bump setting. I was always a bump setter. I never set with my hands. I never wanted to set with my hands because I was a middle blocker in college, right? There's a reason middle blockers don't set, right?
That was actually always my dream position, to be honest with you.
0 double hits called.
I always wanted to be
never gave up any free points for a double contact on my bump setting. Right? And I know everybody now hand sets, which I can appreciate, because it's much prettier, and I'm sure it's much more effective than my bump setting, which was, I had good partners that could hit the non-perfect set. That was like one of my prerequisites.
I love setting. What do I tell you? I'm like, setting is actually what, coming out here and just learning the game, because I never played in the sand before I moved here. I'm like, if you can set, you can keep moving up.
Right.
And that's what I figured out. So, but I always wanted to be a middle blocker and a setter. That doesn't happen.
I can tell you my philosophy for middle blockers that want to come to the beach, and what the keys are for them to be successful.
I'd be very curious
later
to have
on,
that discussion.
But a huge part of it is setting. Setting in transition, and setting basically at any time. In beach volleyball. But
very cool.
If you can set in transition, you're going to be even more valuable as a blocker. So
it's the first question.
Asked,
right?
You have to be able to set, especially transition, because that's where you make your money. Right, is scoring those transition points.
Totally.
So,
like we were talking about Tyler Lucas, right? Or Redondo product or whatever, and he always tells me he has these new partner. This new guy, he's 6'8", he's 6'9" or whatever, and I'm just like, can he set? Greg Faulkner, right? He's like a local product here. He's the first one everybody asked to play fours, but the last one everybody asked to play doubles. So again, I didn't even jump in on the podcast, but
no,
we started talking about wheelhouse
talk.
stuff. So
right.
But later time. You're
right.
Yeah.
Well, I am interested in that, but okay,
we can get there.
Back to the.
So the way that I approached the chemotherapy protocol was like, okay, at the end of these 9 weeks, the data shows I'm going to be healthy, and it sucks right now, but really when you granularly or break it down on a day-to-day, it's really only 28 days of infusion, and the rest of the time it's just taking care of myself, making sure my kids are good, my family's good, and working to get healthy. Right? Regardless of my hair falling out, or the nausea, or the lack of appetite. Those things, my hair came back, fortunately, a little bit different, and it's taken a few years for it to get straight, even though, at first it came back curly.
Really?
Same color. Like, I'd heard these stories, like, not your curly, but wavy. And I was like, what is going on with my hair, right? And so, and then, my beard was a little bit splotchy, but, and then I have a scar on my chest from the port, so it's just like, there's these reminders, and I have pictures too, and,
how much weight did you lose?
I lost like 30 pounds. and I needed to lose it.
Okay.
It was a great diet plan.
Okay.
But I needed to lose it because I was like 260 pounds, and that's not. And when I was playing volleyball at my peak, I was like 228, or something like that. So I needed to get rid of that kind of extra stuff that I had going on, anyways. So finally reached it. Did the first scan back. Felt super confident that everything was going to be fine. Again, relying on the data, right?
Yeah.
And just sort of, I felt great. I mean, not great, but like I was confident, knowing that the data and the medication worked. And so for the first 2 years, I had to do like biannual CAT scans for surveillance purposes and blood work, every 3 times a year or whatever, a quarter. And they were all consistent that everything was back to normal. The lymph nodes had shrunk. For the staging purposes, just to clarify, stage 2B means that you have a growth, right, that you have to remove, and then the cancer cells start to spread, right? So there's 4 stages of cancer, and then there's substages A and B. And so when I was staged at 2B meant that I was obviously halfway through the spectrum, but I had some lymph nodes in my abdomen that had grown, and also in my diaphragm that had grown, meaning that it was spreading, right? Yeah. And so it was pretty important to catch it when we did. So I'm super grateful that we did catch it when we did, and it didn't spread beyond those places.
Isn't timing just a weird thing? I mean,
it always is.
It
always is.
And then I guess the follow-up is, if you had advice for men, is it?
So I mean, I have
physical.
Gosh, sorry, keep hitting that.
No
I have to say that it's funny that we're doing this podcast in April, because April is Testicular Cancer Awareness Month.
Okay.
And so maybe we can put up a link or something like that.
Yeah, absolutely.
On the podcast.
Yeah. For
sure. The key is to check yourself, right?
Yeah.
Self-exam, or I say it and laugh, have someone check for you.
Yeah.
Right. And really that you have to know your body, right?
Yeah.
If you feel something funny, go see a doctor.
Same with
and I've had people come to me and say, hey, tell me what you had and what did you do, because I think I might need to go see a doctor. And I'm like, bro, just go see a doctor.
Yeah.
Like, don't leave it up to chance. Go see it. You'll feel better about it. And, everyone has their own story of how they found out. I mean, Jake Gibbs, a great story about he had testicular cancer as well, and how he found out was through a drug test. And, fortunately for him, it was, very early on. But he was one of the first people I called. I was like, Jake, like, help me out here, man. Like, what's it like? Like, I'm going to do this treatment plan, but what's it like after surgery? What's it like afterwards? And so he was actually a really big help for me. And so relying on those people, and then allowing other people to do that to me too, and ask me for questions and insights, like, I'm all for it. So Testicular Cancer Awareness Month.
We will put it in the show
check
notes.
Yourself.
Yeah.
Have someone check it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. So, again, fortunately I did get to play some volleyball while I was on chemo. Like, I felt good enough at times to go play volleyball, which was very eye-opening and very motivational for me too.
Yeah.
Which you have to have motivation when you're going through something like that, or else it's probably not going to, go in your favor.
Your mental, I mean, that social connection had to be huge.
The social connection and the physical exertion was so big for me, for my own mentality, knowing that I could be going through chemotherapy, but then still be able to play volleyball. And I played with Ty Trambly one day, and I've known Ty for a very long time. Awesome. Yeah. And it was just a very healing sort of situation, right?
That's so cool. That is...
Ty's a healing kind of dude too.
Totally.
Right?
He has that energy, and I don't even know
as far as best person for the job.
I've chatted with him a couple times, and I'm like, that he does have that healing.
Yeah. And I've known him for so long, it felt very comforting to share the court with him, given where I was, because it felt safe, right? And I've known him, I played with him, I played against him for so long and we've been in situations, as friends, that it just was very comfortable to be in.
Yeah.
So that was good. So.
Well, everybody always, I think, wants to be in a situation where they can be themselves, but especially when you're in a position where things aren't quite right or really challenging.
Sure. Like when the cards are kind of stacked against you, and you need to be around people that you trust, you've been around, you have that rapport with, whether it's family or friends, but friends are, just as important sometimes as family. And,
totally.
When other friends of mine go through life adversity and troubles and tests, it's like, I always want to be there to help them and make them know that I'm there to help them if they want my help. They have to come to me. I'll make myself available, right? Because that's what friends do, and let them come to ask for help, right? And not be overbearing to them, but just be, look, I'm here for you.
Yeah.
Right. And I do that with friends now. Just call them up and be like, hey, how you doing?
Yeah.
What's going on? Haven't talked to you in a little bit. We're busy with life, but like checking in on you. Like, what's going on? How are things? Right.
It's huge too. The older you get, like family gets really spread out, and you end up feeling you start to realize like you build a family. And I have that situation at my house right now. I have a friend that needed a place to stay, and she's going to be moving on. But through this surgery, it's like a game changer, and to have that sense of support when you're not feeling quite. No, not that ankle surgery is the same as cancer, but but yeah, that the inability to do everything that you can always do for yourself.
Yeah. I was very fortunate. Go ahead, JD.
It's her podcast, and I don't mean to jump in, but there's an old saying, Mother Teresa said one must participate in one's own salvation. So my question was, before you guys jumped off the ship and entered the next ship, was, and because you also mentioned it a few times, how is it a challenge to get people to say, I need to see a doctor? I mean, are there some people you got to be like, did you see the doctor yet? And like, oh no, I didn't yet. And it's like,
it's scary.
Get your stuff together,
because you don't want to get bad news.
Yeah, I wanted to leave that out there, so for you guys to explore before you guys moved on to the next.
think male or female, and especially with athletes, like I think I don't love to go to the doctor.
No, not at all, because doctor means something's wrong.
There's like a sense of guilt and shame if something comes up wrong. Right. Like, what did I do?
Right.
At least that's what
even though you're trying to be proactive,
it
doesn't come across to it psychologically that it's proactive, because you're afraid that you're gonna get bad news, which means you can't do what you love, which for us was playing volleyball.
Terrifying.
For me, it was playing volleyball, right? And so that was definitely challenging. But eye-opening. And so, when friends need something, like, or if I hear something about a friend that I think I could be able to help them, making myself available to it. I mean, I was very fortunate that I had family constantly through chemotherapy, either at home to help with the kids or fly in from out of state during those 9 weeks. And that was very, very huge and very helpful. And I'm very grateful for that, because I know a lot of people go through it without that. And that's would be very much more challenging than fortunately what I had the availability to have through chemotherapy. So
and your kids were how old at this time? They were
and at the time in 2017, so they would have been 5 and 1. No, 3 and 1.
3. So they don't remember.
They remember me not having hair.
Okay.
And I have pictures, that we see every once in a while. But in that time frame, it's not like I got to spend a ton of time with them, because like during the infusion weeks, I was at the doctor's office and then I was in bed. I mean, I was in bed. Like during that week of infusion, I came home and pumped so full of drugs and things that you're just sleepy. Like you're like lethargic, and you're not like in the mood to like be loud. One of the things for me that was very sensitive was my hearing from the chemotherapy. It was
really?
One of the
so that
side
changed.
Effects. It became very sensitive.
Okay.
It didn't go away. It actually became magnified.
Oh, wow.
So loud noises were really, really unpleasant for me. So it was come home, go to bed, take a nap, shut the door, and just like be quiet. And they were always out with either mom or grandma or grandpa at the park, and just, trying to keep it kind of quiet during those weeks of infusion, because those ones were just a little bit different. So they were 3 and 1. But
what was the timeline?
So I got diagnosed March 31st of 2017, and was done with chemotherapy. Started chemotherapy like right after May, right after Cinco de Mayo. I don't remember the date of 2017, but I remember Cinco de Mayo. And so 9 weeks from then it was late July.
Yeah.
Right around the July 17th area.
Okay.
Is when I was done with chemo.
And you still played Hermosa Beach 2017?
That's what I was just getting to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Did I steal your thunder?
No, I know.
I'm supposed to be your sidekick
no.
here. I want to be Wendy's sidekick. This is why I'm here.
Yeah.
You're great, Jay.
So yeah, that's correct. I signed up and played in the Hermosa Beach qualifier, AVP qualifier 2017, which was probably late July.
Yeah.
I don't remember the dates exactly, but I'm pretty sure I still had the port in my chest. I hadn't gotten that taken out yet because we had to get the first CT scan done to make sure that everything had worked properly. So played with a port in my chest. I played with Eric Baranek, who's a great guy.
Hitman for hire.
Hitman for hire. Yeah, me or him?
No, him.
Yeah, that too.
He made at the time. I think he made the draw like 7 times with 6 different partners.
Right.
So,
yeah, he was. He
but
was
the real
a
Hitman for hire is you.
He was when he called me. I don't even remember how he got my number. He had played for a very good friend of mine, Duncan Avery, was his coach at Redondo Union High School, and so Duncan knew Eric. Eric called me up, and I'll never forget the conversation. I was just out on the street walking, and he was like, "Hey, man." I'm like, "Hi, Eric. What's going on?" He's like, "So you want to play in Hermosa AVP with me?" And I'm like, "Eric, like I'm like 3 weeks out of chemotherapy, bro. Like I don't know."
Did he know?
Yeah, he knew.
He did know.
Yeah, he knew.
Okay.
I'm like, "Bro, I don't know what I'm going to be able to give you. Like I haven't played professional beach volleyball like at a level in a few years. And I'm just done with chemotherapy, man." Like he's like, "I don't care. I want to play with you." And I'm like, "If you're sure that 1, you can't find anybody better, or 2, you want to play with me because even though I don't know what I'm going to be able to give you, like then let's go. Like I would love to do it." And so Eric was all in, and we practiced, and he was super flexible with me and like my energy levels, and it wasn't like, "Come on, Pros, like what are you doing?" Like I was trying to kind of share some enlightenments with him. We always have had a very good communication about volleyball and just life, and he's just a great spirit, and he was great around my kids, and
totally
his energy is so high, right? That he you want to play with him. He's fun to play with, right?
Yeah.
And so we play in the qualifier. We win our first match, which was awesome. And going into it, confidence wise, I was like, okay, like we should win our first match because just based on rankings and what we were doing and exhale. And so we did, and it was different. I saw a lot of people that I hadn't seen in a long time, and I still didn't have any hair, so I had a hat on, and this thing in my chest, which I was pretty nervous about because in case I if I got one off the chest, I was like, oh, I hope this doesn't hurt. The ball doesn't. What's going to happen, right? Fortunately, that didn't happen. So we win our first, and so that's a big, nice, relaxing exhale. And I interviewed with a newspaper reporter. He was like, "Wait a minute, you just got done with chemotherapy?" And I was like, "Yeah, I'm playing here." And, it wasn't. I hadn't really had a chance to take it all in, right? And so then we go on to the next match, and they put us in stadium court, right, for the second round, which was great. I mean, stadium court's always special, no matter when you get to play in it. Yeah. That weekend, it was hot. It was like 80. Something like that.
Always extra hot for the qualifiers, and then it's baking in,
and it's stadium court, so there's no wind, and it's baking, right? And all the banners around are black and gold, and it's just it felt like it was 5 degrees hotter there.
It is.
And we played in the middle of the day, second round, so it's 11 or 12 o'clock, and the first game was good, and then I just completely got gassed, my lungs, were struggling. My cardio was not quite there, but I was just like, I'm done. And it was super hot, and there was no wind, so I couldn't get any help from the wind. And it was, so we lost, right? And I went to Jeff Conover after that match, and I was like, "Jeff, why did you put me on stadium court?"
It's too hot.
It's like, I typically love playing on stadium court, but it's hot and there's no wind, and I need all the wind and help I can get. It's like, "I'm sorry," and I was like, "I'm just messing with you." So we lost that one, and so 1-1 in our first tournament together.
Okay.
But a good mental check for me to know that I could still compete, right? And I'm not. I could stand on my feet. I could move through the court. I could get some blocks. I could still side out. But at the same time, my body is still working through all these chemicals that I've had get pushed through it, and I'm still pretty far off from where I need to be, right? Yeah. And there's nothing you can do to make it happen any faster. You just have to let it kind of run its course and accept it, and then just go with it, right?
Yeah.
And so, Eric and I continued to kind of practice, and I went back to work, and, I was doing that. And then we played in Manhattan. So the Manhattan Open of 2017, played in the qualifier there, won our first 2 games, and then lost our third to Hagen Smith and Cole Frears, right?
Yeah. Cool.
And I'd grown up watching Sinjin, right?
Yes,
dad
absolutely.
Play, obviously. And so that was another kind of full circle for me. It was just like, wow, this is crazy, But whatever. I mean, everyone's kids are older now, and that's what it is.
And Cole's father too, right? Was a pretty good player too. He played at Pierce or something. He was like an indoor and beach guy too.
Not super familiar with Cole's dad, but
my question is: was there a lot about Hagen's mannerisms that remind you of Sinjin, or was
very much so?
Yeah, totally.
Even today, when I see clips of him, even when I ride my bike on the Strand and I see him practicing, he's the same. Very much so.
That match at Atlantic City last year when he's got some fire for sure.
For sure he does. And I'd watched him at UCLA also a little bit when he was playing indoors.
6'2",
as a setter, and he's so dynamic and everything. A lot like his dad too. So
that was second round.
That was,
Manhattan.
I believe, third round. Because it was later. It was like early afternoon, I think.
Yeah.
I don't remember who we played the first 2 rounds, but I'm almost positive it was third round.
Okay.
And at the time, Eric and Hagen were the same age and kind of like trying to make a run and a push. So I wanted to play for Eric really well and hopefully, obviously, win that match. We didn't end up winning that match, but it was close, 2 sets. And again, after the third, going into the third match, my body started to kind of like still wasn't entirely there strength wise, you know. But again, Eric knew it, we liked playing with each other. We were practicing, we would train in the afternoons because I had to work, and very flexible and things like that. And Eric I always knew that Eric wanted to do more. Like this was his path that he was on. Yeah. And I'm like, look, Eric, I've done this. Like,
yeah. And I was going to say, you were how old at the time?
38.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
38. And so I'm like, Eric, like I've done this already. Like I'm with you. Like I'll ride this ship with you for a little bit, but you got to find a better, younger player that doesn't have kids, that doesn't have a job, that doesn't have responsibilities at home, so that you can pursue this, because I've been in your shoes and I see that, I see the fire for you, and you should keep doing it. I love playing with him, and I would still play with him if he called me up. Yeah. And so,
how much did his energy level keep you alive for some of the games that might have thought you were dead?
Well,
I'm only asking because I have a video. I'm going to cue it up.
Sure.
Cool. Because it was a year later, you guys.
So that factor definitely played into the second year of playing with Eric in 2018. Because in the first year in 2017, I didn't really know what I was working with for myself in terms of my own energy levels. I didn't have that default. When I was playing full time, I would train harder than the matches were, so that the matches seemed easier, right? Yeah. And then so I always had that to fall back on. Well, now I'm in a whole new world a little bit, right? I don't know what my baseline is, and I'm just out here playing, trying to compete with these kids that have never been through chemotherapy, right? And are 15 years younger than me. Yeah. Eric's energy is and was awesome, but really that factored into more in 2018 when we played together than 2017, right? Because I was still trying to kind of feel it all out, right? Okay. Yeah.
Actually, is that what you have? 2018?
Yeah, I have a clip. Wendy, I'm not trying to hijack your podcast.
You're all good, Jay.
But I have a clip. I did a top 10.
I love those when
Manhattan
you do those.
Beach AVP plays, and I think it's better than the AVP because I was actually able to get cameras on the outer courts where their top 10 were only center court.
Always great.
And number 1 in my top 10 happened to be a qualifier match. And again, these are all familiar names now, like Paul Lottman, right? Mm-hmm. He's doing well in the AVP. Finished 3rd, I think, or 5th with Miles Partain.
3rd in Chicago.
Derek Olson, you know what I'm saying, doing great things at Cal Berkeley and now Washington. Somewhere else. And now at Washington. Here's the clip.
That's right. I saw them last weekend.
It was a great tournament. It was a great tournament where Taylor just missed winning the finals. Mm-hmm. And without further ado, let's cue it up. You guys take a look.
Qualifier round 4 along with
No, I've heard you commentate it. The chase downs on this rally are crazy. And in the moment, it's moving so fast, right? But Eric, look at where he's going everywhere, side to side, forward.
Look at that.
And Derek's a great defender too. That's a very mediocre, tired shot. Barely jumped a block. Dumb full run two, right to him.
Nice.
And he got the outside of the line on that one. I remember.
And I remember watching this.
And he comes over and shakes my hand. So here's a replay.
Oh my gosh.
The outside of the line he gets right
and then
there.
he
And
chucks
it
the glasses.
Chucks the glasses.
And then he comes to the camera. That's me.
Okay.
Comes to the camera.
God love him. So good. Yep.
That was a very big point, and I believe it was relatively late in the set, and you could tell.
I remember I was just wandering around and happened to catch that point.
No way.
I was like, what is going on over here? Yeah, but
so that was the third round of the 2018 Manhattan Beach Open.
Guys, it wasn't even a fourth round.
No, it was not. Because we were seeded so low, and it's always the Manhattan Beach Open, there's always 4 brackets, right? So you got to play 4 matches. And so just to rewind it a little bit, that summer of 2018, Eric and I played in Austin, which was the first event of the year. And we played in the qualifier. And this time, going into it with a different mindset because I had gone through the CT scans. I was clear from the cancer. I was, in better shape. I was prepped a little bit. We were training, and we were kind of going into it with the mindset that we were going to play in as many tournaments as we could, right? That I could balance with work and responsibilities. And he wanted to do all of them, obviously, because he's a qualifier and he's trying to make it and do this thing. And so we played in Austin, won our first 2, and then lost to Travis Mawerder and Rafi Paulus, right? On a phantom touch that Travis didn't call. So you can let him know about that one, and I tend to do that sometimes still too. But he admitted to it later on, not in the moment. But a good and Austin was hot, right, and hard packed. But I performed. We're almost a year out of chemo, I think at this point, roughly, maybe 10 months or so.
So you were feeling a lot better.
So I was feeling a lot better. My mindset was a lot clearer. I'd been through, the really, really bad stuff and was kind of on our way out of it, right? I was working. I was, everything was kind of settling in. The kids were in routines at school. We were happy to be back in Hermosa Beach. Yeah. And so everything was kind of lining up.
Life was feeling more normal.
Yeah. Yeah. And then my work responsibilities kind of spiked a little bit. So I had to do some conferences and things that would take me away from volleyball on the weekends.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, Eric, I'm sorry. I can't go to this tournament. I can't go to this tournament. I can't go to this one because I have work responsibilities, which that's my job. I have a career outside of volleyball. I got to be the provider. And so I missed a couple of tournaments. And whatever happened in terms of partnerships for Eric, Manhattan Beach was coming up and he was like, hey man, I need a partner. Can you do it? I was like, well, of course, it's Manhattan Beach. I'm absolutely, right? I'm in. And so, Manhattan's always the best tournament of the year. Everybody knows that. Living in Hermosa, other than Hermosa, it's the second best one, and then Chicago or whatever. Big big qualifier, whatever, 95, 112 teams, something like that. My boys were older, 3 and 5 maybe now. And so it was a beautiful day at the beach, right? It was, the first match was in the morning, so it was still cool. The sand in Manhattan is cold on your feet. It's beautiful, right? Yeah. The pier, the sky, blah, blah, blah. Win our first match. I block a bunch of balls, feel really good. That one's on YouTube too. I watch it every once in a while. I think maybe from you.
Oh, and, you're so great.
And I was just I remember that one. I think I probably had 8 or 9 blocks in that match, and it was really that was my jam. Yeah. That's what I was supposed to do, was block a lot of balls, right? So I felt really good. It was a great confidence builder.
Everything.
Oh,
tip.
Yeah, right. And so the second match, long break in between, right? Because the bracket's so big. Long break in between. Play in the middle of the day, it's starting to get hot. And I'm just like, oh no, it's getting hot. Like, I hope I can get through this one.
Yeah.
And I remember, I think we won the first set, but then we lost the second. And my legs started to kind of go. And I was like, shit, not again. Like, heartbreaking for Eric to call me. And then after what we've been through the previous year, I was just like,
just want to get you there.
I just want to, win a second match and get another opportunity to play again. I don't remember what happens. Eric serves a couple of aces. We're playing some guys from the East Coast or Florida, so they're used to the wind. And we end up pulling it out. I don't even remember what the score was, but we win in 3. It had to be like 15-11 or 12. I mean, it did get pretty close.
Okay.
So we won. And so it's just like, okay, huge exhale, sigh of relief. And then you look at the board and you're like, oh, okay, well now we got to play Paul Lottman and Derek Olson, who I think were the 3 seed.
Yes.
They were seated really high.
Wow.
Like they were
3.
But I knew that Derek hadn't really been playing that much, but he had a lot of points, right? And I knew I knew Paul, and someone that long and you have that coach player relationship, you're kind of like, okay, like I can
know what to do.
I got a couple of aces in my sleeve. I know a couple of things that I can pull out if I have to. And so then we play him, which was where that clip was from, and it was a battle. I mean, it was middle of the afternoon, starting to get late in the day, and it was just a really long match. I mean, it's the third match, and you're playing as hard as you can every single point. Like, that's taxing on the body, no matter what sport, whatever the endeavor is, but especially beach volleyball. I mean,
totally.
you guys know. Anyways, from the we pull that one out and we win, and that was a big deal. And Paul's a great guy, and so is Derek. I've known both of them for so long. It's a little bittersweet to knock your friends out, right, of qualifiers. But given our situation, I was just like, let's go, And Eric, obviously, his fire, he's all in. And contrary to whoever was broadcasting that video, that was the third round, not the game to get in. So after that, we had another match to play.
Last round.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jason did say,
okay.
You're
like, no, there will be another one.
Yeah.
And they believed me because it looked like one.
It did. Absolutely.
They believed me because it
did.
looked like the 2 best teams at the end.
Yeah.
Neither one have anything left. All of it screamed 4th round, and they were running behind. So I'm a big liar,
right?
Dude. I'm a big liar.
And I don't remember what we were seeded. I think we might have been in like the 30s, roughly.
Wow.
I'm not 100% sure, but
it's a huge upset.
So we had to beat the first round was a lower seed than us, but then we had to beat 3 more teams that were seeded above us. So we beat Paul and Derek, get through that one, and then we got another match, and I think we were down at the very bottom of the bracket.
Okay.
So our last match was against 2 guys from the Midwest. I'm blanking on their names right now, but I'd played both of them before. And it was a win on the court right by stadium, but the backside. So the VIP people who were having like that, night before the main draw party.
Yeah.
There's like a band up there playing and you can hear the music and stuff. And we end up, going into that match, I'm feeling pretty good. Just happy, like just enjoying the moment, right? Just taking it all in and remembering what it's like to qualify and like be the last match playing. I looked around at it a couple of times. I'm like, there's nobody else playing volleyball. Like, this is the last match of the day. We're
See
in
who
it
gets in.
to get in, right? To the Manhattan Beach Open, like that's the best one ever, right? So you get those like kind of those little chills, right?
Yeah, for sure.
It was a good match. Like, I think we had good confidence that we could beat the guys. And we did beat them. I'm pretty sure we beat them in 2. And it was a competitive match, but it was awesome because people were watching and things were clicking, and we were kind of like, felt like we had gotten through the 2 hardest ones earlier, not to take anything away from our competitors, but on the mental side, we had pushed through those real big adversity wins and gotten them. And then this one was sort of like, let's just go get it. Like, let's just go get it done. And one of the biggest things that I will never forget in my entire life is after winning that match, and just like, I was emotional before the match with myself, but I was kind of trying to hide it because of just the whole journey.
Yeah.
But then after that match was done, like, it just like, I let it out. Like, I was crying.
Oh yeah.
I'd never cried after volleyball, wins or losses.
Yeah.
And I was crying. My kids ran out. I was hugging them. I mean, celebrating with Eric, like it was just such an incredibly special moment.
Oh, wow.
That I still to this day, I mean, I have pictures of it that I look at pretty regularly
Yeah.
to remember those feelings because it's just so special.
Yeah.
3,000 fans voted. I wanted to put together a compilation of the top 5 qualifier matches in the last decade.
Yeah.
And the turnout was low, but the dedicated, like the quality of the turnout, like I have 17,000 followers or whatever, but 2,000 diehards.
Yeah.
So that made number 2 on the top 5 qualifier.
No way.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Number 1 was it was Rafa Rodriguez and Kevin McCullough against Reed Pretty and Kame Schalk.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Huntington Beach, and that was by the pier.
Yeah.
And very much like he said, it looked like a de facto main draw match. It got more viewership than you'll see on a Friday in Stadium Court. That's and I jumped in again
I love the
because
qualifiers.
I wanted
like,
to join.
I'd rather. I mean, by the end of AVP, I'm like home watching it on streaming because it's so crowded. But I will. The qualifiers are the
they are.
But
so
I jumped in because he was trying to draw a picture of the kind of festive environment.
Yeah.
And that's the best way. I think you co-signed with me. It felt like a main draw, like a Friday match, like a Stadium Court match. It was absolutely fantastic. Wendy.
Well, and that's just like that energy, that well of strength. Like you say, you look back at the pictures and to just have those things as you get older and you're like to know that journey and to be in all of those different moments.
Right, totally. It's all part of the story that we write through life, which sounds kind of corny, but it really is, I mean, that's a moment in my life that I'll cherish for the rest of my life. And I will always show that picture to my kids, and I'll have that, that memory stored in my brain for sure. And just what it felt like to have that emotion flow through me from volleyball, but then from all the challenges and to overcome them and to get back to, kind of a place that I was satisfied with volleyball. Cause for a lot of my volleyball career, it didn't satisfy what my hopes were. That can be a whole nother conversation.
Well, that's a huge one in sports for sure.
But just from the challenges in that perspective, going through cancer, chemotherapy, to be able to, and in Manhattan Beach, in front of my children, with Eric Baranek, who is a very good friend of mine, was just so super, super special. And, Ed Chan, was such a great guy. He interviewed me right after it, that night, wrote an amazing article about the qualifier and me and sort of closing the chapter on the testicular cancer story, even though it's never going to be closed fully, but to get back to playing. So it was just like really full circle.
Yeah.
And, whatever happened in the main draw, I wasn't at my best, let's just put it that way, in terms of my body performing the way that I wanted to, but that was all gravy, right?
Yeah.
The people that I played against, they knew what I'd been through. They were like, dude, I'm so inspired, so good to see. A lot of similar to what Tri Bornas had gone through with his health stuff and story to get to where he was. It was even inspirational for me to see him play in the Olympics. Like, here's a guy that, right, like has been through the ringer and has been at the top of the mountain, then the ringer, and now is at the Olympics. And whether or not, he did qualify for the Olympics, whether or not his team was there, but he was there to replace Taylor Crabb as a childhood friend of his.
And did an amazing job.
And did an amazing job given the circumstances.
Yeah.
A 91% side out percentage.
That I was
he led the Olympics in side out.
Yeah. I remember seeing that. Yeah.
And I mean, how many times do you have to make the same mistake where a guy hits 91%? Just leave him alone.
Yeah.
Right.
Serve the other guy.
So when I saw Tri here in Hermosa after the Olympics, like I made it a point to go over and like look him in the eye and like, bro, what you did was so inspirational, like so cool to see. Proud of you, even though, I mean, we know each other just from acquaintances, but it's not like, call each other up and be like, hey, what are you doing, kind of thing. But like,
but knowing that, like going through that fire. And
so, so that was the last AVP event I played in, was Manhattan Beach of 2018. And
then,
I'm completely good with it.
Like, are you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was beautiful. Wendy, it was beautiful.
Yeah,
I
didn't see
You can't unring that bell.
Yeah, it was. It's a great way to put it.
Fantastic.
It was a beautiful moment that will never be topped in terms of beach volleyball, accomplishments, even though you got into the main draw. But it was so much more than that,
Wendy, I'm so sorry.
You're all good.
No, but when I think for the people listening, let's draw a picture here. This he'd already won AVP titles. You won with John Mayer.
I won a title with John Mayer.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so I mean you've already,
and we've been to a final.
Like personal goals.
We were in the finals in 2010 in Hermosa Beach as well, and so that was a very big accomplishment for me. But as a professional volleyball player, training for and focusing on and working towards full-time commitment and doing that.
Well, and that's such a different thing, as you well know. I mean, and those levels of and how you can perform when that's your full-time versus you're balancing everything.
And I remember in the semifinals playing Jeff Nygaard and Matt Olson, two guys that I've known forever. I played club volleyball with Matt Olson when we were 16, 17, and 18. I mean, and then to beat them, to go to my first final, and with John, who John and I had been partners for a long time on and off. Jeff Nygaard was a guy I watched when I was starting to first play volleyball, right?
Yeah.
And after that one, I went over and just gave my dad the biggest hug because he took me, to every club tournament growing up. He was at every college game, and they would come to beach games too when I was there, and it was just like that was a moment for my dad and I. And then fast forward to 2018, like I'm hugging my kids in Manhattan Beach.
I'm telling you, that's where my chills come, because that's what it's all about. Yeah. Like that's what I'm seeing, and it kind of segues into another thing I was wanting to talk to you about, was just that journey of being an athlete and then having kids and seeing what's out there today. And you have done some coaching, knowing all the things they're up against and what is possible. I mean, like the amazing moments that are possible, but how do you let them figure out that journey on their own? Or how do you support them through that journey?
H There's so many different levels of coaching, not just, in age groups, but, psychological levels of an athlete's development, whatever age they are, whatever competition level they're playing at. Because I coached high school guys. I've coached college guys at Long Beach State. Now I'm coaching, Hermosa Beach Little League kindergarten teams and AYSO, 8 and under soccer teams for my kids. And, that's way easier, but it's refreshing, because when I was coaching at the college level, there was no social media, right? There was none of this pressure from external factors, from opening up Instagram and seeing yourself get blocked on repeat every single 10 seconds. And I'm like, wow, like you gotta either like live in a tunnel and block your vision or just be like, accept it. Like it's volleyball, you get blocked, big deal. Did you make a good move? Yeah. Did it look cool? Yeah. If it were you, would you feel good about it? For sure. But you're the one that got blocked. Like, move on. Next point, right? And that was something that I actually learned recently from the coaching staff at Long Beach State, who I talk with, usually on a weekly basis for the broadcasting that I do there. And sort of what those athletes have to go through now, right, is the social media impact on what they do day to day.
Constant scrutiny.
Constant, right? Yeah. Either highlight you're the greatest thing ever, or you're terrible. You just got completely stuffed by this guy and made you look like a hack. Right. Or something like that.
Yeah.
But to take it to my kids, they're still so young that, their path and journey is just at the very beginning of sports, right? Do I love that they love sports? 100%. Do I love playing sports with them? Yeah. My dad was my coach when I was young. So those were special times for me. So of course I'm going to do it for my kids, no matter what. If the league needs a coach, I'll volunteer to be a coach and I'll coach my son's team. And hopefully, it's a positive experience for everybody, because that's the goal, especially at this age. Let them try all the sports. They'll pick whichever sport they want to play. And then when they get to the level, if they get to the level where it's more serious, there's other dedicated full-time coaches for them to go be coach. I don't think there's got to be some boundaries between parenting and coaching. Yeah. Because you don't want to be, I know some people can do it really well. I'm very far away from even attempting it. And I don't, at this point, want to attempt it. Where my kids are at with, coach pitch T-ball. And like I said, Hermosa Beach Little League, it's for fun. It's learning to be in a team dynamic. It's making friends. It's, learning the basics of the sports. Right. And so that's refreshing and exciting.
Yeah. And now, just keep it fun.
Yeah. And
lots of various,
right.
whatever I want to play this, go for it.
Totally.
Yeah.
And I'm not around a lot of high school athletes really at the moment because I'm not coaching at all. I do my job and then I do some broadcasting, or I'm around volleyball still.
Yeah.
But it's not around high school. It's around college athletes or professional.
Yeah.
And so, seeing how college athletes are working through trainings and student athletes in college at school, and throwing in the social media and the sports psychology of it, is very. I'm finding it to be more interesting now, as I've stepped back from the coaching side of it, which I really enjoy. To do the broadcasting, it's more about sharing what I'm seeing, and then elaborating on it so that a viewer can watch it and understand, hopefully a little bit better from what I'm saying, what they're seeing.
Yeah.
Right?
I do love that.
Is what I always loved about coaching. But when you're coaching, you get wrapped up in all the other stuff, the politics, external factors, influencers that you don't want to have to deal with, but it's part of it. The 8 hours in a gymnasium for 3 or 4 straight days for club tournaments. No, thank you. All right.
Yeah.
I don't want to do that. I did that. I don't need to do that anymore.
Yeah.
Are you a color commentator or play-by-play?
I do mostly color commentary, but with a little bit of play-by-play sometimes too, just depending on the lineup or the match, or co-hosting or things like that. At Long Beach State, I do the color commentary, and that's been a great.
That's a lot of fun volleyball to watch.
It's a lot of fun volleyball. It's very fulfilling for me, again, because it replaces that little piece of volleyball that I need to have.
So you're still super connected to the game in the place where you were playing.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great place for me to start, and Long Beach State has been very awesome and welcoming and allowing me to come back to kind of venture into this sort of, medium, right, to do this stuff.
Did you just start this year?
This is my third year with him, but the last 2 years have been pretty challenging.
Not real.
Not really full seasons.
Yeah.
So I started doing that in the 2019,
before
I guess
COVID.
2020 was right before the full COVID. And so it was right after they had won their 2 national championships.
Yeah.
And so obviously I was watching and cheering on, and I was attending both of those national championship moments, which was amazing,
Yeah.
And I just reached out to him. I have a broadcast journalism degree from Long Beach State, but I had never really used it. I had gotten into, I was doing volleyball and coaching, and then I got into medical device sales, and I do pharmaceutical sales now. And I was just like, hey, you guys have a great play-by-play guy that does your broadcast. I would love an opportunity just to color it and add some value to it on a technical side about the specific play, right, or the strategies, and elaborate a little bit.
Yeah, you can learn so much from that stuff. I love listening to that one. I've been watching a lot of live stream.
Right, the line from Days of Thunder.
Yeah.
He's like, I've never driven a car before, but the coverage on ESPN is amazing,
That's
right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. But they were like, yeah, we'd love to have you, like, for sure. And fortunately, that was kind of like an opportunity. I had done some play-by-play on the AVP, but way back in like 2010 when it was just coming online. But this was a big deal, and that was that's kind of led me to a couple other opportunities, and
they keep coming, huh?
Yeah, they do, and it's
last year, it's great for me.
Yeah, it's great. It's for me to be involved in it in just the right way. I really do enjoy talking about volleyball without it being to a team that I'm coaching or seeing faces, right? And having to kind of like rearrange your talk track a little bit. Like, okay, you're watching this game on TV or wherever, and I'm going to tell you what I just saw. So hopefully you can try to do it yourself or understand the strategies of the game or the coaching philosophies and things like that. So that's what I really enjoy doing right now.
Yeah.
With it, so
that's cool. It keeps you connected. And I'm with you. I was telling you some of my favorite. I can sit next to a coach and talk volleyball. Like, I love breaking down matches and all that. It's so much fun.
Yeah.
But so from here, what's your athletic life journey looking like?
I mean, that's a good question. I think it's part of it's not towards a singular activity or goal, right? Because when you're a professional volleyball player, you think about the tournaments that you're going to be playing in, who you're going to be playing with, what the competition's doing, what you're eating, where you're working out, where are you getting physically fit, your travel logistic, all those things that go into your singular focus of playing volleyball. like I've done that. That's in the rearview mirror for me, and I'm totally fine with it. And part of that qualification in 2018 solidified that even more, right?
Did you feel at peace with that, like right after that, or was there kind of a process that you had to go through?
I definitely had to digest it, you know, and think through it. It was relatively easy because ever since then, it's been a simple, you know, I haven't had this yearning or this even thought of playing in a competition-based volleyball tournament. That funny story, that same summer, 2018, I played in the Labor Day Calcutta here in Hermosa, which I've always wanted to play in, but I had played in it the year before for the first time, but was medium. We lost in like the round before the money or whatever.
Yeah.
But it was always Labor Day, which was always the same weekend as the Chicago AVP.
Yeah.
So I was always in Chicago, right? And I would hear about this tournament, I'd hear about all this money, and I'd be like, man, I want to play in this, but it's 4-man.
Yes.
And I had never really played a lot of 4-man.
Yeah.
So 2018, I get the invite, because you have to be invited to play in the thing. And I get the invite, I was like, yeah, let's do it again, because last year I lost right before the money. I think we got like 5th, and money goes 1 through 4. Got in, got my team. On Saturday of the Calcutta, we didn't win a match.
Isn't that weird? It does go, yeah.
Didn't win a match. And, you know, for those of us that don't know the Calcutta, you have to pay to get in, right?
Yep.
And then your team is ranked an A, B, C, and a D, right? And then a committee makes the teams, right? And the goal is to make the teams as even as possible. Well, I was the A. My D was a 72-year-old guy named Johnny Stars who plays at 16th Street.
Yep.
And then I had another younger kid who goes to school at Cal Poly. Everyone was calling him Bieber because he resembles Justin Bieber, obviously. He was, I believe, my B.
Okay.
And then a guy named Manny was the setter. He was our C. He's a firefighter, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Didn't win a match on, and our team, you know, your team gets auctioned, right? So people place bids on your team.
Right.
Then, you know, the person that wins your team has got to come up with half of whatever the winning bid is. Okay. And then the players have to come up with the other half.
Okay.
Our team went for like $5,000, right? So that means $2,500 has to get put onto the team. So that's $450 per player on top of our entry fee. Okay.
Yeah.
And you have to say either you're going to buy in, because if you do win it, then you get your share back plus the winnings, right? Or you say I'm out, and someone else has to come up with the money, kind of deal.
Okay.
Okay. So I was like, yeah, I'm in. Like, let's do this. Like, I'm not going to, not buy into it. First day Saturday, didn't win a game. And it's 2 games to 15, I think.
It's old school.
But it's side-out scoring.
School. Yeah.
Big court.
Yeah.
Didn't win a game. And I'm into this tournament for like $500. And I'm just like, that night I did not sleep. I did not sleep. I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm going to lose $500. Like, this was such a bad choice. I don't even know these guys.
Being so hard on yourself.
And I was just like being really hard on myself. And I'm like, the next morning on Sunday, I'm at the ATM taking the money out. And I'm just like, ugh, I'm just like going to be throwing this money away, right?
Yeah.
And so go to the tournament, and when you get seeded into a single elimination bracket for Sunday.
Okay.
And the previous day, if you win your pool, then you get a double bye on a Sunday. Well, we didn't win anything, which means that we were in the first bracket of play, which means we had to play all day long. I think we had to play 7 matches to win, right? And something happened Sunday where we clicked.
Yeah.
And I was blocking balls. We were siding out. Me and the setter connected, because I'm getting every set as the A.
Yeah.
You get
You're
every
taking
single
a ton of
set.
swings.
Every single set.
Yeah.
Strand side,
Yeah.
Right. Bieber was serving a couple of aces here or there, so it would get like a little bit of a kicker and some free easy points and an occasional dig, and pass from our D, Johnny Stars, right? We play like Richard Jefferson, beat his team, playing kids that I've played against for a long time, blocking balls, beat Landon, beat, guys, local guys, get to the money round. And it's like, sweet, we're in the money, right? Well, we rolled through Scotty Lane and Geeter and these guys just in the semifinals, beat them. So then we're in the finals, and I'm just like, this is great, having fun. I feel like my old self. I'm blocking balls. I'm siding out. I'm having a good time. My kids are here. Family's here. You know, all this stuff. And in the finals, like Jeremy Simpkins and John was the A. I'm blanking on his last name right now. Let's cut that part out. But
Good. No worries.
And long story short, we win the tournament, or we win the tournament, right? And it was from going from, you know, no wins on Saturday to winning the tournament.
How fun.
You know, with all these people who are diehard volleyball fans.
It is, and it felt like a huge scene.
Like purists.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh, it's so fun.
It was another like super great victory that even though it wasn't a professional event, it almost checked the box as if it was a professional event for me in my kind of like volleyball storybook, right? And so and I got to walk off the beach with a bunch of cash in my pocket, which was way better than I would have done if I had gone to Chicago, right?
Yeah.
So that was always what we always laugh about. But so that was 2018, qualifying for Manhattan and winning the Labor Day at Calcutta are the two last beach volleyball tournaments I've played in, and two of the best victories that I've had in my entire volleyball career.
God, that's
so they've really like kind of just checked those boxes, and I'd be like, I'm good. Like I don't need to play in a CBVA in Hermosa. I don't need to go to a qualifier and try to play. Like I'm fulfilled, right, from those ones.
There's something to be said about playing in your region, right? You live in Hermosa Beach. That was presumably on 16th Street, right? Which is like our home. It's our backyard practically. Right? We forward there. So I think it probably meant more because like you're always playing volleyball in front of your peers on some level, right? Chicago, we know people. New York, I know people. We know people in Atlantic City, this and that. But here, if Manhattan Beach is the mecca, this Hermosa Beach is the hotbed.
Right.
And we use the word purist, like people who remember when you were allowed to block a serve.
Right.
You know, I mean,
like,
lifers.
I'm talking about, right?
I loved it when you could block a serve.
Think about how many times the rules have changed, right? For these people.
Sure.
And my guess is that's why it was special. And you alluded to Chicago being the same weekend. Motherlode is also the same weekend. And there's a lot of those people don't go to Chicago because winning on that stage, like growing up in Colorado and playing your peers. So just to give her Wendy's followers an appreciation of why this was bigger than that, right? Chicago. What? Chicago is the gold series, you know? So just trying to make sense of that for anybody who might.
Sort of the impact on that sort of local level, right? So winning Chicago, of course, awesome. Was I in a place to do that? No, absolutely not. And going to the Motherlode is a huge deal in Colorado, and it's a beautiful tournament. I've never actually played in it.
You should call that.
But
you should make the trip and call that.
Put me in touch with him. I'll be happy to go. And then I've again seen the Calcutta for years, right? Been around it, heard about it, all the things, and then playing in it the year before for the first time, not making it in the money, and then this was the second time I played in it. Being able to win it was
so fun.
Was really fun and very, like I said, fulfilling to just kind of get it done, right? So
that was definitely part of that. Yeah, right? Yeah.
It was a good one. So that's why like I haven't really been playing competitive volleyball, and I'm totally fine with it.
Do you have fun playing for fun now, or is it not really a thing?
It goes in peaks and valleys, ebbs and flows with what is going on in my life, how I feel athletically. If I need to go do it, I'll find out a way to go play volleyball. Recently, I haven't needed to go play
When you
volleyball.
say need, that's like a feeling that you have, or
it's like an itch.
Yeah,
it's an itch.
Yeah.
It's
Believe me,
like
I have
kinda
it
wanna,
big right now.
I kind of want to go play volleyball. You
Yeah.
know, and so I'll text a couple of friends, and if it doesn't work out this weekend, maybe next weekend, right? Yeah. And during lockdown, I played a lot of volleyball. And it was fun. I almost played maybe too much volleyball. Yeah. But at the time, it's what I needed as a distraction to everything that was going on in the world and in my life. And, but now, it's just, if I get the itch to play, I've played once in 2022. Okay. 4-man. Yeah. And it took me like 4 weeks to recover from it. So, so to go back to your original question, what does it look like now? I ran my first 10K back on Super Bowl Sunday in Redondo Beach.
I've done that one.
6.2 miles. It was a ton of fun. My first time ever doing anything like that. I trained for it and was running, 3, 4, 5 miles here and there. And my goal was to break an hour, just get it done in under an hour.
Absolutely.
And I crossed at like 58 minutes and 57 seconds or something like that. So I was like, all right, sweet. Like that's a good one, and now I've since then kind of been looking at like, well, what I know that I need to have a goal athletically that's physically challenging for me to work towards. Yeah. For my own personal like psyche and how I operate during the day and when I'm with kids and my kids and what I want to do and where my focuses are. So I signed up for a half Ironman that will take place in December out in Palm Desert. Yeah. So I'm excited about that. And I'm also doing what's called the California Coastal Classic bicycle ride, which is from San Francisco to Los Angeles down Highway 1. And that's a fundraiser for the Arthritis Foundation. Okay. So maybe we can put up a link for that too. Yeah,
for sure.
I have to fundraise. So if there's anyone out there that wants to support the cause, click on the link and your support will be greatly appreciated.
And when's that ride?
So that ride is in September.
Okay. So that'll get you ready for...
So that'll get me... They kind of help each other out a little bit. That'll get me ready for the Ironman, which I have no idea what to expect other than just going to go try to do it. I've never done open water swimming. I've never run a half marathon. I'm decent on the bike. I know I can get the bike part of it done, and I know I'm not going to, break any time records, but I'm not interested in breaking any time records. I want to set a goal and see if I can achieve it, right? Yeah. And so
live.
Well, yeah, and it's part of like keeping that part of yourself, like when everybody else gets a piece of you, right? I mean, you have your job and your kids, and it's all wonderful. It's all great stuff. Yeah. But I do think, like, as athletes or whatever that thing is that fills you up is like huge.
And that was something for me that I missed for a long time when I stopped playing volleyball, when the AVP went bankrupt, and I started to like look at these other things that I needed to do to be a provider for the family and start a different career because volleyball at the time was gone, right? Yeah. I've realized through everything that I've been through that I do need to have athletic goals. Yeah. Like for me, I grew up playing sports. I was chasing, trophies and wins. I, got a scholarship to play volleyball at Long Beach, played professional indoor volleyball, played professional beach volleyball. And then now, I'm a professional parent and I have a job. But I have to have something that holds my attention, that gives me something to work towards. Yeah. That's physically endeavor. That's a physical endeavor, right? Because that's just so important just for my own mindset. Yeah. And I think psychology too.
Totally.
So I'm excited for those two challenges. They're different. They're outside my comfort zone.
Yeah.
That cliche of, get comfortable being uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Comfortable discomfort, right?
Yep.
Like I started swimming,
that's my other sport,
I've inhaled some water already, just in the pool. But I'm starting to really enjoy it, and it's a new challenge that I haven't done before, so it's fresh, right? And you start at the bottom and you get stronger and stronger, just like jogging or running. I mean,
yeah. Are you swimming in the pool or the ocean or both?
I haven't done any ocean swims yet because it's cold,
freezing,
and I'm not trying to, get hypothermia. Drown. And I'm not going to go by myself yet. So I got to get a wetsuit and wait till it warms up a little bit.
Yeah.
But
I know some ocean swimmers.
All right.
I did the peer-to-peer with my daughter.
That's probably something I'm going to do too.
Yeah. It's a great training ground. And there's plenty of people out there too. So,
right. Yeah. So I'll probably do that as well. I don't even know when that is. Do you know when that is?
It's always at the same time as Six Man. It's that
it's
surf festival.
Oh,
it's part of the surf festival.
Perfect.
So, yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah, peer-to-peer, Manhattan to Hermosa.
Lauren and I did that in 2016.
1.9 miles.
Yeah.
There you go.
And we had a rough day. It was you're training and it's great. And then the training days were great. And then the race came and it was crazy.
Was it rough water?
Yeah, you're swimming and rough current and lots of wind.
See, those are things I don't know what I'm in for.
Yeah, no, I was a pool swimmer before that, so it's a learning experience. But you see some really cool stuff out there.
I bet.
Giant fields of sand dollars on the bottom of the ocean. Yeah, some cool stuff.
Jason's sweet. No, I'm good.
He's he won't be out there.
No. He's thanks, no thanks. He's give me a glass bottom boat.
Yeah.
When she said you see some cool things there, I was like, sharks?
No.
Well, I only knew because when I was training for Manhattan Beach, I was running peer to peer in the sand.
Oh yeah.
And it's 3.8 miles, like there and back.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Yeah.
so when she said swim peer to peer, I was like, nah, running was challenging enough. And I guess my question to both of you, because I'm ex-military, so I know I don't do those 10K runs and that stuff anymore. But what was the longest event or distance both of you guys ran?
I've done one marathon.
Nice.
And I will never do it again.
Nice.
That's how I've never done a marathon either.
Yeah.
The longest I've ever run was the 10K
Right.
in February. I was thinking about doing a marathon.
I did a 32K in Germany, the Frankenstein Castle run, which is like pretty much like up the hill.
Yeah.
And like she said, I did it.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mine was like,
and,
I got to do
and life
this.
goes on. I'm not doing
Yeah.
this anymore. I mean,
I did it after I had Luke.
I respect and salute y'all.
Yeah.
It was the get back in shape I had
Nice.
after I had Luke.
Yeah.
And then I ran that and was like, my back is not cut out for this. Like
Yeah.
you could feel your vertebrae. Like when I when I
thank you.
finished that, I'm like, I don't run.
No.
I don't think my form is right to be that type of runner.
I've never really been much of a runner. Running on the sand is one thing. Like,
Yeah.
I love running on the sand.
Yeah.
It's good on your joints. It gets you
Yeah.
in great shape, right?
Yeah.
I've never been a runner since I played volleyball on cement or hills or anything like that, unless it was around the court,
Yeah.
or in the sand.
Historically, I don't think volleyball players are. I did get into it in college.
Right.
Yeah.
And so I was toying with the idea of doing a marathon.
Yeah.
And then I realized, I was like, for 26 miles? Like, what are you thinking? Like,
Yeah.
I may do a half marathon in June,
Okay.
but I haven't fully
Half is so
committed to it.
different than a full.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
still, I'm just like, I can't do a full marathon, and I'll get bored. And
Yeah.
when I get bored, I stop doing things
Yeah.
that I'm doing that gives me that boredom. So like, And that's where the Ironman thing
Well,
came
so
along.
you know
because,
yourself. Yeah.
Because it's different disciplines. I already know that I've always enjoyed riding bikes and doing the bike ride from San Francisco to LA. I've done it a couple times already, so I'm comfortable with it.
Yep.
But to run a half marathon after riding 50 miles is going to be a new challenge. Just like swimming
yeah.
a mile and a half, with however many other people in a lake is going to be a new challenge as well. And the training for it too is something I've never done either.
Yeah.
And so that's where I get excited for it, is that I'm training for things I've never done before. So the training is new,
Yeah.
as opposed to just going to the gym and lifting weights. I've done 10 billion
Yeah,
bench presses
you gotta
and
break the
squats in my
monotony.
life. Like,
Yeah.
that's like, it's not doing it for me.
Right.
So you got to keep it fresh and challenging.
Totally. Well, that's some good
So.
stuff.
Yeah. It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward
Yeah.
to it. So.
Well, that's been an awesome conversation. And I think I warned you, like, kind of what my last question tends to be. The whole concept of this podcast is to give people a chance to kind of reflect on their life and say, like, if you had something to do in hindsight differently, without being hard on yourself. Do you have any, either wisdom to your younger self or wisdom to the next generation of maybe one thing that you would take away? That,
I mean, yeah, of course. There's a lot of things, I'm 43. I hopefully still have another at least, 30, 40 years left, be a dad to my kids and watch them grow up and guide them as best as I can through my own experiences through life, right? I think thinking about this question, it's not about going back and changing what's happened in my life to have gotten to me where I am today, but it's analyzing and thinking about the choices that I've made given the situations that I was in that have brought me to where I am today, and what I can take from them moving forward for myself and the most important people around me in my life, whether it's family or friends. And so for me, it's not looking back in regret, but it's learning from the choices and helping me make the right choices moving forward, so that it puts me in the best place to be the things that I want to be for myself and as a parent for my kids or a friend or whatever I need to be in that day, because we're always a lot of different things, not just a retired volleyball player or broadcaster or parent or friend or all these things, son. So I think that's what I've really tried to take from and will continue to try to do as I get older and foster and teach and guide my children through life, is realize where you are, what you have, take it and be better for it. And realize.
Thank you for the plug. That's my new be better is
there you go.
Yeah, that's my concept.
Perfect.
It's like just a little bit at a time.
Yeah.
And that ability to self-reflect is really what allows that.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree with you. Yeah. Self-reflection is key, and as for me, as I've gotten older, I've learned to do more of it and realize how important it is to what I choose to do tomorrow and the next day and down the road.
Yeah.
So
I couldn't agree with you more. Good stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, so we'll put the show notes the links for testicular cancer and your ride and all of that stuff.
Yeah,
but if people want to find you, where speaking of social media and all that.
So not a huge thing for me is social media. I'm on Instagram. The Matt Prosser is my only social media platform.
Okay.
If you want to watch indoor volleyball, I broadcast on ESPN Plus for Long Beach State men's volleyball home matches. There's only one more of those on April 15th, and then
who do they play?
They're playing Cal State Northridge.
Okay.
And you're Big West, right?
We're in the Big West, yeah.
Great best conference in the United States.
It's the strongest conference this year for sure, right now.
And my VA,
they're close.
They can be.
Got some dangerous teams there for sure. Yeah. I broadcast for the NVA, which is the National Volleyball Association. It's a men's professional volleyball league. Just started doing that for the third year. We had our first event last weekend, so that's nvausa.com.
Okay.
And I commentate on the Volleyball World platform, which is volleyballworld.tv or the app that you can stream professional indoor volleyball from Italy, or the Volleyball World Beach Tour. Called the Rosarito gold medal matches, which was awesome. With Kyle Friend.
Yeah.
And so I'll be doing some matches from Brazil.
Nice.
And then other
if you need an extra guy, tell him you know a guy.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then matches and tournaments from all summer. So I'm really excited for that. And also the VNL, Volleyball Nations League. I'm going to be doing some of that broadcasting as well. So very excited for that. It's going to
be a fun summer.
New project. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, thanks so much for having this conversation.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us for the What I Meant to Say podcast. For more real conversations like this one, come on over to the Be Better community at www.bebetterwithwendyjones.com, a place for athletes and parents to grow and find meaning behind what we do every day so that we can be strong on our own and better together.